Hey everyone, welcome to my patch 7.2 Feral Druid Mage Tower Challenge Guide. This guide is to help you attain the Ghost of the Pride Mother weapon appearance. The talents I used for this were Predator, which is pretty much required, Displacer Beast, Balance Affinity, also pretty much required, Typhoon, which is very helpful, Savage Roar, required, Jagged Wounds, and Brutal Slash. Brutal Slash isn't necessarily needed, but I found it significantly easier to use this talent than Blood Talons, although some prefer that. The legendaries I used were Luffa Wrappings and Pridas. Sub like 920 eye level, I feel like Luffas are pretty much required. My trinkets were Convergence of Fates and Recursive Strikes. Recursive Strike was pretty much used because agility. I used a well-fed crit strike buff, defiled augment rune, and an agility flask. My weapon had 50 points in it, in 7.2 obviously. So let's get on with the guide. To begin with, you're going to want to pre-pot. I used Prolonged Power because it lasts for a minute and I feel like it scales better with high eye levels, you get more value out of it. Again, I took Brutal Slash and I pretty much wanted to annihilate these first little imps as quickly as possible. You're going to want to try and keep your bleeds up on all the adds at all times, and obviously Luffas and Thrash help with this a lot. I did waste a lot of energy and a lot of time. I could have been single targeting rather than recasting Thrash over and over again, but I was a bit panicky, and I really wanted to ensure that my bleeds were up, and this is because you take Predator and you want to reset Tiger's Fury pretty much all the time. Now obviously I had my foreset from the Nighthold here, so every bleed I had on my target increased my single target damage as well. So I was again trying to keep up Thrash, trying to keep up Rake and Rip at all times, and I was attempting pretty much to save Fury of Ashemain for every single shield, because those I felt were most important to get down. This is also why I decided to use Pridas, because I really needed the damage reduction. Without it, and using Killjaden's Fury as a trinket instead, I was really struggling in the second phase with survivability, even not getting hit unnecessarily. I was just getting nailed by the Smoldering Imps, which the longer they're alive, obviously do more damage, and her Dark Fury, which the longer she stays shielded and casting, does more damage. My method for dealing with the Fuming Imps was to kite them and keeping up Rake on them, because they get infected wounds and they're slowed, and you can pretty much just kite forever, especially with Balance Affinity and the extra range on your spells. And this is pretty important because you want to get that Dark Fury shield off as soon as possible. I wasn't too concerned about the Imps, the Imp Servants healing. I could interrupt both of them with Typhoon as I just did before, which was helpful but not super necessary, because the amount of healing they do is pretty insignificant, and this fight is honestly more about ad control than it is about dealing direct damage to Agatha. Obviously when you can, you want to, but otherwise it's really not a big deal. So for the imp priority, I chose to focus down the Fuming Imps pretty much first, or at least make sure that I could kite them effectively before I worked on other adds. Then I chose to focus down the Umbral Imps, as whenever they're up, Agatha takes no damage, and I believe this includes her shield, so you can't actually break the shield if there is an Umbral Imp up, and this can cause you some problems. Again, you'll want to try and position yourself sort of in the middle of all the adds whenever you're applying any kind of AoE, especially Thrash. With Luffas, this shouldn't be too difficult, because of the extended range and the extended range from Balance Affinity, but you want to keep your bleeds up on as many things as possible and let things rot down, and get the reset on your Tiger's Fury pretty much at all times, because this is essentially necessary to get these ad packs down. You'll want to try and keep Savage Roar up as much as possible also, because obviously it increases the amount that all of your cat form abilities do in terms of damage. Save your interrupt pretty much just for Agatha. There's really no point interrupting those imps except with Typhoon, because you do want to ensure that it is up. So unless you can time that really well, I could not. I did not have the focus to do that. You'll want to save it for her. At 50%, she phases, and this it seems easy, and I struggled with it a little bit, I will admit. One hit from these rocks and basically it's all over for you. Even with Prides, I think you can probably survive one if you time it correctly, but it's honestly just not the best idea. They also stun you, so yeah, life gets pretty scary if you get hit by those. So again, your focus wants to be on ad control, trying to keep your bleeds up, and I chose not to pop heroism immediately because I wanted to save it for what I'd figured out was the second time she translocated to the back of the room. She will not stay up here forever, but you'll want to watch out again for the boulders. There are 3 lanes, middle, left, right, and there will never be a point where one boulder immediately falls in the same lane twice. If you do happen to get hit by one, just try not to panic. You can still kind of make it, but it is difficult. If the fuming imps do start casting Plague Zone, also you can stun them out of it with Maim if it's really necessary, or knock them out of it with Typhoon if you can. Obviously Typhoon is probably the better because you're not wasting combo points on it, but if it's down like it was for me a couple times, you'll definitely want to use Maim to stun them out of that. So this second phase, I suppose, when she translocated, honestly it's a little bit scary. There are the boulders falling behind you and you do have a little bit more wiggle room than you do on the other side of the room. But you'll still want to be pretty mindful of what lane boulders just came down and not run into them. If you get hit by Agatha's Shadow Stab, I believe, the little purple swirlies on the ground, she does actually slow you. It would be wise to try and save Displacer Beast or some kind of run speed in case this happens, but in saying that, you want to try and get back to her like as soon as she translocates as quickly as possible, because otherwise she's just going to start annihilating you, essentially. There are a couple times when she did do that she had Dark Fury up and I could not, or I wanted to get to her as quickly as possible to get that down. But in the few times that it did happen, I found that I could get there quickly enough and burn the shield down fairly adequately, I suppose. So again, with the Umbral Imps, you want to burn those down as quickly as possible. Make sure that you're interrupting the Fuming Imps or keeping them slowed and kiting them as much as possible, and then try and deal with the Smoldering Imps before you focus Agatha. I know it's kind of tempting to just try and burn her down, but the damage they do honestly is just so much, and you want to get the reset on Tiger's Fury. And all the while dodging everything. In this second phase also, there are green patches on the ground that deal a moderate amount of damage, and also I believe might slow you a little, maybe they don't, not sure. Didn't really look into it, to be honest. But otherwise, just keep on ad control, dodging boulders. When she does translocate, and I'll do that in a second here, I blink to get close to her. Be watchful of that where you're blinking, because you do not want to blink into a boulder. I almost killed myself there. But this is the point that I heroed. It was the second time she went to the back of the room, or the beginning of the room, however you want to, I guess, classify that. But I popped hero, I had berserk up because of convergence, and I went all out, second pot and everything. Just because this was what I'd found most difficult prior. Just getting this wave of ads down and burning her down, and in the end she actually ended up dying to bleed damage, and I didn't realize that she was as low as she was. So I chased her down. But if you can get this second wave of ads down pretty quickly, and then I had Ashermoon's Fury up for her Dark Fury, it's pretty much a good game. You'll have your skin, and she will die as she did there. So hopefully you guys found this helpful. I know there were a lot of guides or videos up of this, but none of them had like a verbal guide of strategies and stuff used. So let me know in the comments if it was helpful, or what you want to know, if you need to know anything else, and I will do my best to answer. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and congratulations on your awesome new skin.